And you're welcome to join the debate 011-542-2186, or you join us on social media. We have Donoso President Simon Hlongwane, who is on the phone line. Dumisani Dakile is the Gauteng Provincial Secretary for Cosatu. And on the phone also Pagamile Hlubi, NUMSA spokesperson, about the big day tomorrow. Cosatu and the SACP taking to the streets, expecting 100,000 members to join you. Are you not punching above your weight? You seem very confident that you'll have the critical mass.
Well, we think that the 100,000 is just a minimum. With the figures that are coming in as we speak now, we think that we're going to exceed that particular number. We are indeed quite confident in terms of the number of people that will be participating in the action tomorrow.
All right, let's get into the objectives and cut to the chase. You say that you're marching against corruption, state capture, and job losses. And all of those are very broad concepts that haven't really been ventilated adequately. How then do you think this march will be effective in dealing with those primary issues?
Well, as we have indicated, this is just a beginning of the mass rolling action. We are coming from that leg where we have tabled this thing, where we've met with business, we've met with government, we've tabled our demands there. And unfortunately, they could not have been able to meet our demand. Hence, we have deadlocked, and the certificate has been issued. And therefore, we're saying tomorrow is a beginning of the rolling mass action. If there is no any positive response within 14 days in relation to the demands that we'll be placing forward tomorrow, there will be a number of other actions that will be taken. Obviously, after 14 days, if there's no response, we'll be going back to our affiliates, we'll be going back to Cosatu locals, we'll be going back to Cosatu Provincial Short Council to give them an update on what other forms that are going to come. That will be determined by the process that we will be engaging with our members in terms of the consultation.
Because at the heart of it all are the workers' concerns. And we know that there are salary disparities. If you just take the recent statistic, with the variables being about 7 or so versus white and black professionals in their income abilities. So are you looking at those discriminatory mechanisms within corporate South Africa as well?
Well, the point that we also want to make, hence the reason that we are saying that we need a well-established, what they call Judicial Commission of Inquiry to look at this part, because we believe that the corporate sector can't necessarily be viewed as if it is innocent in relation to all of these issues. That's one of the reasons also, for example, that we'll be going to the Department of Labour, and one of the reasons that issues that we'll be raising with the Department of Labour, that we see them not being able to take proactive measures and decisive measures in dealing with those companies that still continue to practice discrimination against our people.
All right, so on the phone line, we have Pagamile Hlubi, NUMSA spokesperson. Good evening to you, Pagamile, and thanks so much for joining us. I mean, we know that, taking to the streets is almost a contact national sport in South Africa. It has yielded results in part, but primarily the workers also tend to suffer because, no work, no pay, as it were. How do you see this march being of value to workers?
Thank you for having me. The National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa is very clear that our members will not be participating in this march. The reasons are very simple. If Cosatu is really serious about dealing decisively with state capture, dealing decisively with corruption, then they should break away from the ANC. Because the fact of the matter is, the very problems that they are articulating are problems which were created by the very ANC which they are in alliance with. And that's why for us, there is absolutely no value for members of the working class to lose a day's wages fighting on behalf of ANC factions, which is ultimately what this strike is for. What Cosatu is actually doing with this march is demonstrating its support for Cyril Ramaphosa and his leadership within the ANC. And as NUMSA, that is something we can never participate in, because we've been very clear that for us, the ANC is a problem, and the ANC is no longer an organization which we are willing to support. They do not have the solutions for the working class. And if Cosatu was genuine about its cause, then that is precisely what they would be doing. They would be breaking away from the ANC. That in itself would have the greatest impact on state capture.
All right, just please stay on the line. We have callers, Felix in Mbombela, and Joy is calling us from Sandton. Good evening to you, Felix.
Oh, Felix from Nelspray. Thank you for calling. Thank you for taking my call.
Yes, sir. What's your comment or question?
Oh, yes. As a worker, as a civil servant myself, I will be joining the march. It really, according to your question, whether it is political posturing or at workers' interest, nobody can know that. It's only Cosatu that can answer that question. But however...
All right. I'm sorry, Felix. We lost you there. Hi, Joy.
Hi, Cindy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Fine, thanks. I just wanted to put two questions, one for you and one for your panelists there from Cosatu. And the question to Cosatu is, in their opinion, we just read that the SACP and NUMSA would not be joining this march and saying Cosatu is just grandstanding. What is their comment on that? And then for you, Cindy, I just wanted to know, are you also going to cover the fact that Sizo Kobodo has dumped Ogbay as the auditors?
Yeah, well, news items, let me just deal with the last one. News items are sent to the assignment desk, and then the producers and reporters will be allocated stories. So if it's a news item, you can be guaranteed that it will be covered, Joey. Thanks so much. Okay, let's deal with what Pagamila was saying, that this is essentially, if you are worth your salt and you want to be taken seriously as Cosatu, she says that the ANC, in her view, is corrupt in general, and that you would sever ties with the ANC.
Well, I think in our view, the issue of the tripartite alliance with the African National Congress is not just a narrow-minded alliance. It is a very broad alliance that is attempting to address triple challenges. Among them, the question of unemployment, the question of poverty, the question of the inequalities. I think all of us would be able to confirm that the policies that have been adopted over the past 23 years have not necessarily been able to assist in that regard. But if you look also generally within the global environment, unemployment has worsened across, issues of poverty have worsened across. So these are not necessarily South African phenomenon, but we believe that there are steps that have been taken by the African National Congress in trying to mitigate in relation to what is happening. But we also believe that there is more that can be able to be done, and those are the fights that we are fighting within the tripartite alliance to make sure that there is a shift in relation to the policies that are being implemented. We have not yet given up. We still believe that we can be able still to save the African National Congress from the destructive mode that it has taken. We still believe...
Yeah, but what about your public declaration for support of CR17?
Well, obviously, we have declared first and foremost the fact that we demand that the president of the country must resign. And we are not apologetic.
So why mustn't this march be seen as being a faction that is trying to drive its own preference or preferred candidate for the ANC presidency as opposed to what you're claiming it to be?
Can I finish what I was saying? Those are decisions that have been taken by members of Cosatu in consultation with their own respective structures in relation to the fact that the president of the African National Congress must resign as the president of the country, precisely because he's not taking us anywhere. It is also correct, the fact that then also we're unapologetic, the fact that we have also resolved that Cyril Ramaphosa, we believe that it is a better candidate to be able to save us from the crisis that we are in. The issues that we are addressing tomorrow are issues around the question of state capture, are issues that are around the question of corruption in our country. And it is also a fact and the truth that as we speak, Comrade Jacob Zuma must go and appear around 782 what you call criminal charges of corruption and fraud. So in our view, it's not that corruption is new, it has been started by Comrade it is not necessarily also that what calls state capture has started by him. But the truth of the matter is that this thing have escalated. And in all
let's take callers. I hate to interrupt you. Let's take callers. Celinkosi eThekwini and Mandla eMalahleni. Hello, Celinkosi.
Yebo sanibona mama njani?
Siyaphila singezwa nini?
Siyaphila mama. No, umbono wami la uwodwa ngokubaba lo lapha e-studio. Noma ngasalithola ngigama lakhe. Kodwa nje into ebuhlungu la ulukuza uCosatu uphumile endleleni yokubhekelela abasebenzi wangena kwipolitiki kakhulu okuyiyona yona ayidika ngawo njengamanje okukhondela ukuba ngabe wakha ini umfelandawonye with lokuzani alliance kwakhiwe ini umbutho kusetshenzwe kuye phambili kodwa bavele ibona baxovu ANC labo ibona baxovu alliance laba ngoba esikhundleni sobabhekelene nabasebenzi okuyibona baxakile naba abasebenzi baxoshiwe FNB yabo naba abasebenzi baxoshiwe FNB asizolutha abalisho but they still keep on pushing this matter ka Jacob Zuma. If they are serious enough they must focus entweni eyithinta abasebenzi. That's why inomsayithi they want to stay away from this
Baba ucela inkosi sibonge kakhulu. We'll have uDumisane respond to that, saying that Cosatu has immersed themselves more as a political organization as opposed to caring for members' concerns. Mandla Malahleni, good evening to you.
Good evening. How are you, Cindy?
Good, how are you?
I'm fine. I've got a question for Mr. Dumisane.
Go ahead.
Yes, I want to ask him what is Cosatu's position regarding the workers at Oakbay that are going to lose their jobs. Also, I just want to let him know that ANC was not Jacob Zuma was not elected by Cosatu and SAP. Thank you very much.
All right, Mandla siyabonga kakhulu. I just want to give Phakamile also a chance to respond in the way this march has now been seen by some thinking that this is the holy grail or the magic wand, as it were, that's going to deal with issues of state corruption, state capture and corruption. Do you think that even in the denial that we're getting from Mr. Dakile, with all due respect, that this is not essentially a almost parade, if you will, of their support for Cyril Ramaphosa?
I think that, and with due respect to Comrade Dakile, the fact of the matter is that Cosatu's call for a strike tomorrow has absolutely nothing to do with the crisis that is facing the working class in South Africa today. Working class in South Africa is facing the crisis of unemployment, poverty, and inequality. The reason we are stuck in this crisis, and sadly, it is a global crisis, is because of capitalism. And it's because of economic policies which were implemented by the ANC government, which have resulted in the suffering of the working class. Now, the Cosatu claims that they still have hope in the ANC. The ANC has implemented e-tolls. The ANC has implemented labor brokers. It has implemented the youth wage subsidy. It has done that with the existence of the alliance partner. That's why in 2013, NUMSA made the bold decision to not only reject President Jacob Zuma and his corruption, but also to reject the ANC. For two reasons. One, because they were corrupt, and two, because they no longer provided any solutions for the working class. After we left, or rather after we were expelled by Cosatu for making that just and that very correct interpretation of the situation, Cosatu now wants workers to give up a day's wages for the very same reason, except they don't have the courage to actually separate themselves from the ANC because it does not suit their personal narrow agendas. They're not actually interested in trying to resolve the crisis that is facing the working class. If this was really about workers, then Cosatu, as a trade union formation whose goal it is to protect the interests of workers, should be standing up more than anybody, making more noise, condemning the ANC. It doesn't matter whether the ANC is run or presided over by Jacob Zuma or Cyril Ramaphosa. Nothing will change for the working class as long as it is the ANC that is in government. And the question we should be asking ourselves is, why is Cosatu not willing? Why does Cosatu not have the courage to make a bold stance on behalf of the working class?
All right, Phakamile, thank you so much. That's Phakamile Hlubi, spokesperson for NUMSA. On the phone, we have Siphokazi from the Eastern Cape and Joy in the Northwest. Good evening to you, Siphokazi.
Thank you very much, Cindy. The panelists and also to the viewers at home. I'm just surprised that the Cosatu is still existing. That's point number one, because we've been complaining about Cosatu. Cosatu, can't find Cosatu anymore. If you can ask them, where is Vavi today? They are starting what they did with Vavi. Now they want to do it to Zuma. Who is next? Who is next? Because we know their agendas, that they are behind the white monopoly capitals. Now their stomachs are full, or they're still hungry, some of them. So they must not play us. Please don't play us. Cosatu, the employees were exploited. The employees are losing jobs. We can't find you on the ground. There was an issue of the miners that are losing, 7.5 miners that are losing their job, marching to the banks so that the bank can close. But now you come here, you're marching for what? What corruption? You are part of it. You are also corrupt.
All right, so a scathing criticism there from our callers. Let's take Joy in the Northwest. Good evening to you.
Good evening, Cindy. I share the same sentiment with all the callers and also NUMSA. Cosatu, its agenda is only political. It's no more about workers. It's no more about the interests of the workers. Cosatu, they are also corrupt. They are from the ANC. Some of them were part of the corruption before. And even now, what they are pushing is to lay hands also on the corruption issues. So we no more take Cosatu serious any longer. They are also corrupt.
All right, Joy,
they are no more interested in the plight of the workers. Imagine the FNB 4. There are so many workers who are losing jobs. So what is Cosatu doing?
All right, Joy, we appreciate. Let's give Mr. Takile an opportunity to respond. Thank you so much.
I think let me start with this question that Cosatu is political. Yes, indeed, Cosatu from its inception, the first campaign that Cosatu waged was a political campaign around the end of apartheid. And the same thing that we're hearing today, that Cosatu is political, those are the criticisms that we have been faced ever since from our formation. So it's not something that is...
What material difference do you make for workers' plight and their frustration around job security, about a living wage, about preserving their livelihoods?
You see, I think we must understand what is Cosatu. Cosatu, it is a federation of trade unions. Trade unions are up every day, their strikes. As we speak today, we've got workers in Macro who are striking. As we speak now, they have started their strike since from Friday. That's the Cosatu union that is on strike. As we speak now, we're about 3 weeks, we've got workers in Midval who have been fighting, who are on strike for betterment of the working conditions. And that have been led by a Cosatu union that is SAM. We have had resolved a strike 2 weeks, what they call about last week, on workers from Nehau in the Gauteng legislature that have been on strike for more than 5 days.
All right, so you've mastered the art of hosting or subverting strikes.
No.
The simple question, as we heard from our callers, one Umandla eThekwini, or rather eMalahleni, saying that Cosatu in itself has been the cancer or the problem in the tripartite alliance because of the posture that you've decided to take in supporting one leader over another. Why not Nkosazana Dlamini? Why not all the other 8 that have put their hand up for the presidential campaign if you are not wanting to preserve the status quo, as one caller said, of white monopoly capital, and you wanting to dip into that?
In actual fact, people today have got guts to speak about white monopoly capital. When we spoke about white monopoly capital, we're labeled as ultra-lefts in this particular country by the same people who are accusing us today that we're in bed with white monopoly capital. But secondly, let's come to this question that of NUMSA. NUMSA went and met with Jacob Zuma secretly and negotiated a space for Zwelinzima Vavi. Once after that space was closed for them, they decided therefore to move out of the federation. So they can't come today and pretend as if they're not interested. As we speak, 3 months back, NUMSA was in secret what called talks with Cosatu and Zuma. What to call that? As Cosatu, we have become bold and enough and come up in support of whoever that we've come up with. People forget today that the same Jacob Zuma, that people that are saying that we are fighting, he was saved by this particular federation when he was under attack at that particular moment. So Cosatu stand in relation to whom must assume the office in the highest office. It's not something that is new. It has been our tradition and we've been mandated by our members to do so. We do not account We do not account to NUMSA on which candidate that we must support or which candidate we must not support. Let's see NUMSA taking up programs and campaigns on their own. But we know for the fact that they're no longer relevant, and their only relevance at this moment is for them to be able to attack.
Well, the same criticism is also meted to you as Cosatu with regards to whether it resonates with the workers' needs. But I just quickly want to take 2 callers, and thanks so much for your patience. Nato in Mpumalanga and Vela in eThekwini. Nato, good evening.
Yes, and this is Mato speaking. Eh?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. You know, before Cosatu can come up with this state capture that they are talking about now, we have a state capture that was done by the European system, that is the ISDS, that they use in companies to capture South Africa. I think that is the state capture that they are supposed to address now, because that state capture, under the system of the minimum wage that Ramaphosa want to introduce in South Africa, workers are going to suffer. But Cosatu is not talking about that. He's talking about the names of the people that are corrupt. I think the people that are naming my president, Jacob Zuma, and the Guptas, they are nowhere near to what the ISDS is doing to South Africa. Now, I want Cosatu to address that state capture before they address the state capture that they are talking about now.
All right, Menato.
About it.
Yeah, thank you. Tata Vela in eThekwini. Good evening to you.
Yebo sisi niyaphila.
Yebo siyaphila, singezwa nini?
Ngithi mina ke ngisejika lapha. Ngoba ngiza lo bhuti lo la sesizwe wakho elekhuluma ngoRamaphosa uthi yena prefer candidate. Kanjani ngoba phela uRamaphosa athi robha abantu le eyimayini bese ebuyile sengala nje. Uqala ikhona into angayenza ehlukile. Umbuzo wami oqala kuyena.
Okay. And it was Billy, very briefly, please, Buffett.
Yeah. Sengisho ukuthi ke laba eCosatu SACP ake befocus ezintweni zabasebenzi. Mina njengami angisebenzi. Yabo. Kade ngisebenza eFemini. Ibhunu lapha eFemini alikhuphula imali limela kuthola umile liyakumisa likugoduka ekhaya ngaphandle kwesizathu. Uyabona nje belichaphaza abantu. Atoya ke mina ngitshena amaqiniso. Ngo-2016 la ngimisa emsebenzini ngibuya ngoJanuary. Ithenze emafemini abayazi lapho bakhuluma behleli lapho. Yabo.
All right, Babu Vela, sibonge kakhulu baba, and we certainly hope uzathola umsebenzi. Very briefly, in terms of again creating work opportunities and not just being known to demonstrate or facilitate strikes.
Well, one of the demands that we'll be placing tomorrow to government and to business was saying that the issue of the unemployment and the joblessness in our country has reached the highest proportion. It is on those bases that we are calling for the convening of the job summit, which is one of the areas that we'll be raising tomorrow. We will be able to thoroughly look at this particular question and be able to provide solutions in terms of how do we think that the jobs can be able to be created in this particular country. Around the question of whether the corruption and the state capture started with Jacob Zuma or not, it is that particular point that we are saying there should be an urgent establishment of the Judicial Commission of Inquiry. And all those people like the caller that has called, who've got evidence and who've got a view on where and how the state was captured, will encourage them to be able to come to that particular Judicial Commission of Inquiry that must look at all those particular questions. It does not help for them to be able to say the state has long been captured. We are saying let's create an avenue, a vehicle that will be able to alert people to ventilate on what do they think and what they know about this question.
I certainly wish that we had more time, but I'm afraid we're going to leave it there. That's Dumisani Dakile. He's the Cosatu Gauteng Provincial Secretary. And we had Pagamile Hlubi, NUMSA spokesperson, on the line, and you at home. Thanks indeed for taking the trouble to call in. We continue on social media. For now, we take a quick ad break. We'll see you on the other side.